Hi, this is Pam Schmidt. I'm a school teacher. I teach kindergarten. By now, it's November. We're already hitting the easier part of the discipline scale in the classroom. I've established my routines. My kids understand the routines. We know how to be civil so we can get to the act of learning. Well, this week, I don't know what happened, but it wasn't wonderful. We kind of went back to the behavior that I see in my kids in the first 2 weeks of school. It was interesting. One day this week, I kind of said to another grown-up, there's a weird vibe going on in my room. During recess, there's a bike zone, and then there's, the rest of the playground, and I kept having kids just all of a sudden ride their bike out of the zone and just kind of look over their shoulders to see if I'd notice. I'd send one to timeout. Here came another kid riding out of the zone. Timeout. Third one. I had 3 kids in timeout just for riding their bikes in the wrong area. It's like, good grief. Well, it got worse from there. We had, they were just challenging all morning, and we reviewed the playground rules so that the next day we would be on task. At dismissal time, though, of that very same day, I only had 1 kid left to, be picked up by his mom, and they're supposed to stand with their bumpers on the fence, rear ends, and this little kid just wouldn't do it, and I kept saying, move back to the fence, come on, and he kept wandering away and thinking it was a joke. And so I took him and I said, okay, then we're moving away from the fence, here's a pole right here, stand with your bumper here, and he started getting grumpy and resisting me, and he started walking away, and I kind of held his shoulder there, and it started to fall apart. He started crying and starting to struggle away from me, and I realized, he's going to dash for that open gate in the parking lot, and I can't do this, so I had to start moving him toward the office. Well, he starts flopping on the ground and, being unable to stand, and I'm trying to help lift him up, and he's flopping and crying and wailing, and meanwhile, first graders are walking by, lining up for lunch, and they're watching the show. I don't like that kind of show. And so I'm lifting him up, and we're trying to get to the office, and it's a struggle, and it's like dragging, dead weight. We get to the office, I open the door, and, he needs to see the learning director, and we dealt with that. So I think the next day's got to be better. My arm's getting tired. So what happened next was this. That next day, we went to the library, and I have a long trail of kids coming back into the room afterwards, and I see my last 2 girls. They're just slugging it out, and they're the nicest little Spanish-speaking girls I've ever had. And it's like, what in the world? So I went out to deal with that, and as soon as I came back in the room, I had like 4 kids standing in front of me. He pinched me. He said he's going to beat me down. It's like, wow. So I got in the room, and I dealt with what I thought was the big, just a simple issue. And it ends up 2 of my strongest leader girls, who are very nice girls, K girl and N girl, they both were trying out something that they had heard about. K girl's brother had said, if people bother you, you tell them you're going to beat them down. Well, she's a nice girl, but she's in kindergarten. She doesn't understand what that means. So K girl and N girl decided they would try it out, and they both tried it out on the kids that they sat next to. Well, it just so happened, N girl sits next to the kid that I hauled to the office the day before, and he's kind of a character, so I wasn't surprised, but all of a sudden, a little girl comes up and says, K girl said she's going to beat me down. And then the little boy comes up and says, N girl said, pinched me. So I go to K girl, how is it going? What happened? And she immediately starts crying. I can't understand a word she says. So I said, calm down and I'll come back to you. And I went over to N girl. Okay. And I did this in front of the whole class. I asked, he says you pinched him, did you? No, I didn't do that. So I asked the boy, did anybody see her do this? And about 8 kids raised their hand. So she's lying. So we talked about lying, and we dealt with all of that. Well, those two girls were just trying out something and they didn't understand what the brother was saying. They decided they would try the power that comment of, if somebody bothers you, just tell them you'll beat them down. And they decided to use it on innocent kids. And it was just nuts. And so I thought, what's going on? What's the cause of this? Well, last week we had Halloween. Some of these kids are still living on candy. We also had the time change, daylight savings change. Okay. I've been testing heavily for the last 2 weeks, but really I've been testing for a month. So that means when the kids come to my center, basically I'm giving them work, sitting them at the table and saying, here, get to work on this task. And then I turn my back to them and I'm monitoring and testing kids one-on-one. I've been doing that for a while. So these kids, I think, took that as a sense of entitlement that they could start doing whatever they wanted, all three of those things. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, even parents struggle and have times with naughty kids. I'm sure you know that. And so I have 5 tips for you in terms of how to handle discipline when your kids are being exceptionally naughty. Good luck. I need it too. So check in, read my blog, and I hope you have a great, great day. Be consistent, and those kids will get it together. Bye.